Well, my friends, this is kind of a review of something interesting that happened with our Polaris electric Ranger. And you will see in this video, this YouTube video, that my batteries are really, really dirty. I have neglected them, but I did that deliberately to kind of give it a test to see if I would continue to have the corrosion problems of the terminals like I used to have with lead acid batteries. So now I'm using the LIFPO, the lithium iron phosphate batteries, and I'm liking them very much, but something interesting happened. I'll walk you through it in this YouTube video. So you will now see that the under seat area is much cleaner than you will see it in the rest of this video. I hope you find this video interesting. Incidentally, I used my trusty Craftsman pressure washer, and I also gave my trusty Craftsman mower a good washing. You can see that I have it held up. I've had this mower since time began, I think, and of course it has no hood because the hood blew off into a million pieces on the lawn one day, months and years ago. I know what you're thinking. He should have washed that hat too while he had the pressure washer out. Well guys, I was using my Polaris this morning and it just quit on me. And now I got to figure out why. Well, you can see that it's extremely dirty on the batteries and so forth. But now I have no voltage. I have no lights, no nothing. So I'll take my trusty old Radio Shack voltmeter and start testing. So the first thing I did is I took my voltmeter and I set it to plus DC voltage and 30 amps. DC volts. And I put the leads on the first battery and I accidentally put them on backwards, plus to minus, and lo and behold I have 12 volts. On the 30 scale right there is about 12 volts. When I hook it up the way I should, oh, incidentally, yeah, notice the minus, but there's my red lead. Here's the plus, and here's my black lead. So I have it hooked up backwards, and if I hook it up the proper way, the needle tries to go negative, so I got to figure out what's going on there. So I left the one lead, the red lead, on the minus post of the first battery, and I went over to the plus post of the last battery, and I should read 48 volts here, but I read nothing. Nothing. So I went back to battery number 1 in the series of 4 batteries, expecting to still find about 12 volts between the terminals. I didn't change anything on my voltmeter, still set to positive. 30 volt, no, it's now set for 100. Oh, there's the problem. Back to 30, now I have 12 volts, okay. But it seems to be negative and I don't know why. So I thought I would bring in battery number 2 in the series of 4 batteries. We would expect to see 24 volts for the first 2 batteries. Now obviously I'm going to have I have 12 volts here relative to that red lead over there. Why the voltmeter is reading backwards voltage, I don't know. But I obviously would have 12 volts here and at the other end of this cable. So I will now take the other lead, and this is battery number 2, and I will touch here. I have nothing. So I'm going to conclude that the BMS in battery number 2 has perhaps kind of permanently cut out my voltage system. So I decided to check the voltage across battery number 2. Now this is battery number 1 here, but battery number 2 is there. And notice that I hooked up the leads in the proper way. That is to say, the black lead now goes to minus and the red lead goes to plus, and that battery has a little over 12 volts showing on the voltmeter, even though I've hooked the leads up correctly. So battery number 1 is now disconnected entirely. There's the cable, here's the battery terminal, and over there is the cable, and there's the battery terminal. So the battery is isolated from the entire Polaris system. Let's see what kind of voltage I get and if it's in the proper polarity. So now with battery number 1 disconnected entirely from the Polaris system, I just have the red lead to the positive terminal and the battery cable is disconnected. And similarly, I have the black lead to the negative terminal of the battery and the wire is disconnected. The cable is disconnected. And now I do have over 12 volts, and it's in the proper polarity. Very interesting. I checked battery number 3 back there as a separate entity across its posts, and it had a normal 12 volts and a normal voltage. Then I checked battery number 4, and it has 12 volts in reversed polarity. So I'm going to try unhooking all the cables, all these cables, and charge each battery separately with one of my 12.4% or voltage, 12.4 volt chargers as a separate battery and a separate charger. And now I have tested all 4 batteries in a similar manner. That is to say, I have the red lead on positive terminal, I have the black lead on the negative terminal of the battery, and the cables, the battery cables are disconnected. So each battery is totally isolated from the rest of the batteries and from the Polaris system. And all 4 of them now read similarly 12 point something volts in the correct polarity. So that's a good thing. I think I'm just going to try to hook up the cables now and see if the system works. Well, folks, that worked. I hooked up all of the terminals and tightened them down. I didn't even clean them up. And even though when I put the dielectric grease on them, I mistakenly put the dielectric grease even on the conductive surfaces. But look at here. I have voltage now. Maybe it's hard to see. I have voltage now. And when I turn on the switch here, we get lights coming on and I'm pretty sure it's going to drive just fine right now. So what I'm going to have to do is be careful about pushing the load too hard on this Polaris when I'm pulling a trailer or whatever. I have found out in the past that I should not use the high speed mode. I should use just the maximum range mode or the low speed mode, and I never have that problem. These batteries are so powerful that apparently the Polaris draws too much current and the BMSs shut themselves down, or in this case, strangely enough, they seem to have reversed polarity. Very interesting. But I'm glad that with no cost and no extra problems, except getting towed, I got towed home, and it was raining a little bit, and it was on a gravel road, so it's really muddy. And obviously I need to clean up down below the seats here too. Anyway, that's a wrap. It seems to work. Praise the Lord.